we're the first people to look at this thing in a modern sense. We found what might be the most significant thing. It's just not anything you could make up. I'm hoping there's a breakthrough.
Oak Island's 230-year-old mystery may finally be closer than ever to its biggest breakthrough. After years of relentless excavation, millions of dollars spent on investigations, and thousands of scientific tests, Rick Lagina and Marty Lagina's team has uncovered new underground evidence that has captured the attention of treasure hunters around the world. Deep ground scans, core samples, borehole camera footage, and advanced geological analysis are claimed to have revealed a massive underground structure that some researchers believe could be a long-lost Templar treasure chamber. According to early estimates, if this discovery proves to be genuine, the treasure hidden inside could be worth as much as $450 million. Although the findings have not yet been independently scientifically verified, the new evidence has sparked enormous excitement across the treasure hunting community. Even more surprising, the structure identified in the scan reports appears to be human-made rather than a natural geological formation. Many researchers believe this could be the very chamber that explorers have searched for over the past 2 centuries. Rick and Marty are now preparing for what may be the most careful excavation of their lives, because this time, even the smallest mistake could destroy one of history's greatest mysteries forever. In today's documentary, we will examine every new piece of evidence, every scientific report, and every shocking discovery surrounding this incredible investigation. But before we continue, make sure to subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon so you never miss our latest mystery, archaeology, and science documentaries. Now, as soon as deep core drilling began, the Oak Island search entered a completely new stage. This phase of the expedition was very different from everything that had come before. The team was no longer focused on clearing away the surface or exploring shallow ground. Their objective was to reach the depths where earlier scans had detected the strongest unexplained anomalies. For several days, drilling operations continued across multiple locations, with core samples recovered from depths ranging between 170 and 190 feet. In the beginning, the recovered material appeared ordinary. But as additional samples were brought to the surface, the mood among the researchers began to shift. Hidden within some of the cores were fragments of aged wood that did not appear to belong naturally at that depth. While the discovery did not prove anything on its own, it strengthened the possibility that human activity may have taken place there centuries ago. The surprises continued. Several core samples revealed stone layers that looked noticeably different from the surrounding geological formations. In certain sections, the rocks appeared to be arranged in a way that seemed unusually organized rather than randomly formed. Scientists also detected faint metallic traces in a number of samples. Although the readings were far from enough to confirm the presence of buried treasure, they were unusual enough for the team to preserve every core carefully and send each one for detailed laboratory examination. At that point, the investigation shifted from excavation to science. Every sample was studied with extreme care by geologists, materials specialists, and laboratory technicians. The researchers analyzed the age of the wood, the composition of the stone, and the characteristics of the metallic particles using multiple testing methods. Rick and Marty understood better than anyone that Oak Island had produced countless false hopes over the years. Instead of making bold claims, they chose to let the scientific evidence guide every decision. Even so, one fact became impossible to ignore. The latest core samples had made the mystery even more intriguing than before. Attention soon turned to what many believed could provide the clearest answers yet: the borehole camera. The camera was carefully lowered into the same drill hole where both the underground scans and laboratory results had indicated the strongest anomalies. Inside the war room, every member of the team watched the live video feed as the camera slowly descended through layers of soil and rock. For most of the journey, the images showed nothing unexpected. But at a depth of roughly 180 feet, the atmosphere changed instantly. The camera revealed an open void that looked very different from a typical natural fracture. Its overall shape suggested something much larger than an ordinary crack, almost resembling a hidden chamber. As the camera captured additional angles, several sections displayed unusually flat and straight stone surfaces. Some experts argued that these features could still be explained by natural geology, while others believed the formations appeared unusually consistent with a structure that might have been shaped by human hands. The footage also showed areas where the stone arrangement looked noticeably different from the surrounding rock layers. Although none of this could be considered definitive proof of a buried chamber, the findings were significant enough to convince the team that every future step would require extraordinary caution. After reviewing the footage several times, Rick and Marty reached an important decision. Rather than rushing deeper into the excavation, they temporarily paused operations to allow every piece of evidence to be re-examined. The borehole video, ground-penetrating scan data, and core sample results were all compared side by side. Geologists, archaeologists, and engineers worked together to analyze every frame of the recording. Their mission was no longer simply to dig deeper, but to determine whether the strange formation captured by the camera was a natural geological feature or something intentionally constructed. That question quickly became the center of the entire investigation. Could the mysterious space beneath Oak Island be nothing more than an unusual rock formation? Or was it the legendary chamber that treasure hunters have searched for over 2 centuries? Those questions naturally brought renewed attention to one of Oak Island's oldest and most famous legends, the story of the Knights Templar. For decades, many theories have connected the island to the Templar order. According to some historians, the medieval knights possessed enormous wealth, priceless artifacts, and sacred relics during the height of their power in Europe. Legends claim that a portion of this treasure vanished without a trace, leaving historians and treasure hunters wondering where it was hidden. That enduring mystery is one of the main reasons Oak Island continues to fascinate people around the world. Over the years, researchers have examined historical documents, old sailing records, and various references from the past in search of clues. While these sources remain open to interpretation, some investigators believe they hint at the possibility that a hidden vault may exist somewhere in the North Atlantic, an idea that continues to fuel one of history's greatest treasure hunts. Although none of these historical records provide direct proof that the lost Templar treasure is buried on Oak Island, they continue to fuel one of the most fascinating theories in treasure hunting history. Once the latest borehole camera footage and underground scan results were revealed, speculation quickly intensified. Many people began asking the same question again. Could the mysterious structure hidden beneath the island finally be connected to those centuries-old legends? At the same time, scientists urged everyone to remain cautious. Archaeologists and geologists pointed out that a chamber-like void or an unusual arrangement of stones is not enough to prove the existence of a buried treasure. Nature itself is capable of creating formations that can appear surprisingly artificial. They emphasized that only careful excavation, additional drilling, laboratory analysis, and independent scientific verification could determine what truly lies underground. Rick and Marty's team shared the same approach. They repeatedly stated that their mission is not to prove a popular theory, but to examine every piece of evidence objectively and allow the facts to speak for themselves. Even so, the latest discoveries have once again placed the legend of the Lost Templar Chamber at the center of one of the world's most talked-about treasure mysteries. As public interest continued to grow, another question began dominating discussions across the globe. If a hidden chamber really exists beneath Oak Island, what could it actually contain? Following the release of the borehole footage, laboratory findings, and updated underground scan results, several treasure researchers and media reports began speculating about the chamber's possible contents. If it held centuries-old gold coins, silver artifacts, sacred relics, or other historically significant objects, some early estimates suggested that the collection could be worth as much as $450 million or even more. Although those figures were entirely speculative, they were enough to send excitement soaring worldwide. Almost overnight, Oak Island once again became one of the biggest topics in the world of archaeology and treasure hunting. Experts were quick to explain that the true value of such a discovery would extend far beyond the precious metals themselves. Objects connected to an important historical era, or to legendary groups such as the Knights Templar, can possess extraordinary historical and cultural significance. Ancient coins, rare religious relics, handwritten documents, and unique artifacts often become priceless because of their rarity and the stories they preserve. For that reason, many researchers began viewing the possible chamber not simply as a treasure vault, but as a discovery that could reshape parts of history itself. Even with all the growing excitement, scientists continued repeating one important reminder. No treasure has been officially confirmed. The ground-penetrating scans, borehole camera recordings, and laboratory results collected so far provide only preliminary evidence that justifies further investigation. Whether the rumored $450 million treasure exists can only be determined through careful excavation, comprehensive scientific testing, and independent expert verification. Rick and Marty echoed that position, making it clear that every future step would follow established scientific procedures rather than speculation. Still, that did little to slow public curiosity. News organizations, historians, geologists, and millions of Oak Island followers around the world watched every new development closely, with anticipation growing after each report. Eventually, the investigation reached a turning point. After reviewing the latest ground scans, core samples, borehole footage, and laboratory analyses multiple times, Rick and Marty realized they had entered what could become the most critical phase of the entire search. This was no longer simply about digging deeper. It was about conducting the most precise and carefully planned excavation the island had ever seen. A lengthy strategy meeting was held inside the war room, where geologists, archaeologists, engineers, and drilling specialists carefully evaluated every piece of available evidence once again. Together, they designed a detailed excavation plan intended not only to reach the suspected underground chamber, but also to protect every possible artifact and geological feature along the way. To prepare for the operation, advanced recovery equipment was positioned across the site. High-precision drilling systems, heavy excavation machinery, remote monitoring cameras, and modern surveying instruments were all placed on standby, so each stage of the work could be carried out with maximum accuracy. The team understood that if an ancient man-made structure truly existed underground, even a minor mistake could permanently destroy evidence that had survived for centuries. Because of that, precision became far more important than speed. Water had always been one of Oak Island's greatest obstacles, so managing it became a major part of the excavation strategy. Before work could continue, the team developed a detailed water control plan that included continuous monitoring of underground water pressure, additional pumping systems, standing by for emergencies, and rapid drainage procedures if flooding occurred. At the same time, strict evidence preservation protocols were put in place. Every layer of soil, every stone, and every object recovered during the excavation would be carefully documented, photographed, and analyzed before any further digging could continue, ensuring that no potentially important evidence would be accidentally lost. Every artifact recovered during the excavation would also be scientifically documented and catalogued. Rick and Marty made one thing absolutely clear. There would be no shortcuts this time. Every stage of the operation would move forward only after receiving approval from the experts. Their priority was simple: carry out a completely controlled, low-risk excavation. If a piece of history truly lay hidden beneath Oak Island, preserving the evidence would be just as important as discovering it. With the excavation strategy finalized, attention shifted to what many considered the most critical meeting of the entire investigation. Rick Lagina, Marty Lagina, and the full team of specialists assembled once again inside the Oak Island War Room. Across the large display screens were the latest underground scan images, borehole camera recordings, core sample data, and laboratory reports, all presented together for one final review. Everyone understood that the decision made in that room could determine the future of the search. For that reason, nothing was accepted without careful verification. Every report, every measurement, and every data point was examined once more to ensure that even the smallest oversight would not lead to a costly mistake later. The meeting began with the geologists presenting their findings. They explained that multiple underground scans had repeatedly detected unusual anomalies at the same depth. In several locations, the rock layers appeared noticeably different from the surrounding natural formations, and the borehole data consistently pointed toward that exact area. Next, the archaeologists shared their assessment. They emphasized that the evidence collected so far did not prove the existence of an ancient structure, but it was certainly unusual enough to justify a full-scale scientific investigation. They also recommended that every object uncovered during the excavation should be recorded in its exact original location, so its historical context could be accurately studied later. Afterward, the engineering team outlined the complete excavation strategy. They explained where the digging would begin, how deep the equipment would operate, how the water management system would function throughout the process, and the precise point at which heavy machinery would be replaced with more delicate excavation methods. Once every presentation had been completed, the team compared the ground scan results, borehole footage, laboratory analyses, and drilling data one final time. Following hours of discussion, a clear consensus emerged. One specific location consistently appeared in every major report as the area showing the strongest unexplained signals. That site was officially selected as the primary target for the next stage of the excavation. As the meeting concluded, Rick and Marty reminded everyone that the investigation would move forward carefully, not quickly. They knew the next phase would be watched not only by their own team, but by millions of people around the world. News of the War Room's decision spread rapidly, bringing Oak Island back into the global spotlight. Treasure historians, archaeologists, geologists, and independent researchers across the world immediately began studying the newly released information. Historians who had spent decades researching Oak Island noted that having ground scans, core samples, and borehole camera footage all pointing toward the same location was highly unusual. While they stressed that no conclusions should be drawn before excavation, many agreed that this could become one of the most significant moments in the island's long history. Geologists, however, approached the findings from a different perspective. They explained that the underground anomaly could have several possible causes. Some specialists believed the pattern might indicate a man-made feature, while others argued that uncommon geological processes can sometimes produce formations that appear surprisingly artificial. The differing opinions sparked a fresh scientific debate. Some researchers supported moving directly into the next phase of excavation, believing enough evidence had already been collected. Others recommended gathering additional underground imaging, laboratory analyses, and more core samples before taking any further action. Despite those differing viewpoints, everyone agreed on one essential principle. Only scientific evidence, not speculation, should determine the final conclusion. As the debate continued, international media outlets intensified their coverage of the investigation. News organizations, documentary producers, and treasure hunting communities followed every update from Oak Island with growing interest. Across social media, millions of people discussed the possibility of the rumored $450 million Templar treasure. Some believed the island was finally on the verge of revealing one of history's greatest hidden discoveries, while others remained skeptical, viewing the claims as an intriguing but unproven theory. Regardless of which side people supported, one fact had become undeniable. Rick and Marty's next excavation was no longer just another chapter in the Oak Island search. It had become an investigation being watched by the entire world. But just as the team prepared to focus on the suspected underground chamber, a fresh set of ground scan results introduced an even more puzzling twist, one that suggested the mystery beneath Oak Island might be far greater than anyone had imagined. What was initially believed to be a single underground void soon became far more intriguing. As additional ground imaging data was analyzed, researchers identified new anomalies both beneath and around the original location. Several advanced scans suggested that the underground formation might be more complex than first thought, raising the possibility that another deeper section could exist below the suspected chamber. This development brought the long-discussed second chamber theory back into focus. Although it remained only a scientific hypothesis, the repeated appearance of similar underground signals made the investigation even more compelling. The surprises did not stop there. Some of the latest scan images also revealed long, narrow features extending away from the main anomaly. Their shape resembled what could be underground passages or hidden corridors. Geologists were careful not to describe them as tunnels based solely on imaging data, explaining that such conclusions would require much stronger evidence. Even so, the patterns were unusual enough that they deserved further investigation. Meanwhile, some researchers suggested another possibility. If an ancient chamber truly existed beneath Oak Island,